The views, opinions, and experiences expressed by the individuals are completely their own and are in no way, shape, or form associated with any institution, group, or organization. Welcome to the World on the Hill,
I'm Samriddhi.
and I'm Nisha.
This is a podcast where we invite guests from all over the world to discuss stories in order to challenge assumptions and discover new perspectives. Old Bill invites you to chill. It's the World on the Hill. Today, our guest is Raphaelle from Lebanon.
Hi
How are
everyone,
you?
my name is Raphaelle. I'm from Lebanon. I'm 16 years old and I'm currently studying at UWC Adriatic in Italy.
Cool. Welcome to this podcast. So, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here.
I have a question for you because that is how it's going to work. So,
Okay.
how was your childhood, like growing up in Lebanon? How was that? What were the things you did for fun, or what was your favorite thing?
I think like my childhood in Lebanon isn't very different from other countries. Like I didn't grow up in a war zone or in a country where it's very, very unsafe. But I would say that my favorite things was going out in nature. And because we have a really nice nature and that's very diverse. So we have the sea, the mountains, valleys, and all of that. But one thing that I would say was like quite oppressing was that we do not have a good infrastructure. So we do not have trains or subways and stuff like that. So everything is made by car, and also walking in the street alone isn't very advised. So anytime I would want to go out with friends or something, I'd have to ask my parents to drive me, and this would be quite frustrating at times because they're not always available.
Mm-hmm.
And also, most of the trips you would do with your friends was going out in a restaurant or to the malls or cinemas, and this is also not very cultivating in a way. And yeah, so yeah.
Okay. So basically, your favorite pastime or like the main pastime was like going out to eat. So, I mean, Lebanon must have some very tasty food. So, can you tell us what food you liked in Lebanon and what maybe we could try out when we go there?
Sure. So Lebanese food is also very diverse and it's very, very good. So if you go to a typical Lebanese restaurant, you would just have a table full of mezza set out with like hummus dips, a salad called tabbouleh, and grape leaves and nuts. And then they put on the table main platters, which is like meat, chicken, fish, and vegetables and stuff like that. I would really advise you to eat, I would say hummus, definitely.
I mean,
Um,
that's
it's
really famous
international.
because, yeah, exactly. It's like so
Yeah.
amazing. So, I mean, I really want to thank Lebanon for like giving it to the world.
Yeah.
For the hummus. Thank you, Lebanon, for the hummus.
Thank you.
And as like a main platter, I would say there are some dishes with like rice and chicken and a sauce that's kind of white. So this is really, really good. And we also have something called taboul, which is like a sandwich with chicken and ketchup and something like garlic. And this is really, really good if you want like Lebanese fast food.
I'll remember that. But this is the thing, like, you know, from the outsider's perspective, what we think of Lebanon is like a war zone, lots of destruction. But obviously, people live there, people grow up there, they have
Yeah.
childhood. So, how do you think?
And pretty normal lives. Yeah.
Pretty normal lives, exactly. So, how do you think the Lebanese perspective of what Lebanon is different from an outsider's perspective? Like, how does Lebanon actually look?
I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty chaotic, but like everyone that lives there, they just live a normal life. It's like another country, you know. I guess we like other countries have this view of Lebanon as a war zone because it used to be a very unstable country and it still is, and especially with its borders with Israel and Hezbollah and all of this tension. But when we're in the country, everyone just tries to live normally. Like we go to school normally, we have the public and private schools, and I guess like Lebanese people see Lebanon as a great country for most of them, but also there are some people that see it as um, kind of a disadvantage in their life because we don't have like a stable and secure future, or we have all of these uncertainties.
What I've like learned from what you said was that like there's people that are living luxuriously and having fun in Lebanon, but there's also people who are still facing the aftermath of like war, and like basically there's a lot
Yeah.
of income inequality. So it's not like everyone's living in poverty, but there's definitely like both sides of the coin.
So right now, especially with the economic crisis and everything, poverty is at almost 50%, which is huge. And unemployment rate is rising a lot, and it's at 40% right now, approximately. So you definitely, like, if you go to big cities like Beirut or Tripoli or in the south, Saida and Sur, you can definitely see the difference between the very rich and the very poor. So, for example, there's this city I really like to go to. It's in the north. It's called Tripoli, and there are these old souks. And when you go in there, so souks, it's like where you can buy a lot of stuff, and it's just like a market if you want, open air. When you go there, you just see the poverty, and you see the people actually selling very like simple things, and they live like a completely different lifestyle than the people in other part of the city. Like it's crazy, So you can definitely see this contrast between the very rich and very poor.
Yeah, talking about like as economic equality, how did that affect people in regards to COVID, and like what did the government do and not do? As in India, the government started with a lockdown, but then
Mhm.
when we started reaching the peak, because of the economic situation, they unlocked the country, as they said. So what happened in Lebanon?
So in the beginning, we were really dealing well with it. So the government, as soon as there was like the first few cases in the country, they directly said, okay, we're closing down the schools. There's a national lockdown. No one can go out from this time to this time. So it was they dealt with it very well. But after so we started the lockdown in March, and then towards the end of May, they said, fine, we're gonna lift the lockdown and people can start going back to school and just working. But as soon as that happened, the COVID cases started rising again. But they couldn't put the country in a lockdown again because people needed to work. So, and also there was the economic crisis. So everything was going downwards. And after the blast, no one would care about the COVID-19 anymore because everyone was on the street helping everyone, and they couldn't take their precautions. So now we're back in a 2-week lockdown, and the state isn't really helping anyone. So that's really bad.
Okay, so basically, basically because of COVID-19, your health system was already stretched to its extent, right? And then the blast hit. So obviously, to recover from the blast, I mean, people were injured and there was a lot of death. So they couldn't really rely on the health system that already existed, right? So,
Yeah.
so can you describe how the relief looked right after the blast, and like who was donating, what volunteers were there to help people recover from this?
So what happened is that a lot of hospitals were full, but there were also a lot of volunteers, so a lot of private charities and private organizations. They came, they were helping people on the street, they would give them food, they would clean up. Also, for the people whose home got destroyed, a lot of hotels actually opened their doors and they told the people, you can come and stay here without paying, just for free. So I would say that the people really, they were in solidarity together, like they were helping each other. And yeah, it's mostly the people and the private organizations and charities.
A country that's already facing like economic turmoil, to see people helping each other as much as they
Yeah,
can is,
yeah,
it's a great feat.
yeah, it's very good.
And like as you said, like when the blast happened, did it, if you're fine with the question, did it like hurt you personally, or somebody you knew like was affected by it, or in the country? Because it happened in Beirut, but
Mhm.
what were the
Yeah.
things that went around?
So when it happened, because it was that strong, at first we thought it was in our region. So we live like 30, 40 minutes away from Beirut, and we thought it was right next to us, it was that strong. And then we saw on the news that, okay, it was this blast that happened in the Beirut port. At first it was like a shock because no one would really expect something like that to happen. It was a huge, huge explosion. And then we just wanted to check up on the family because we have some family in Beirut, and their house was destroyed, but everyone was fine. It was very shocking and something unexpected, and also like you would hear stories that people like they couldn't sleep at night, or everyone feels unsafe in their home, and it's very disturbing, as an event. So I would say it's gonna take a lot of time to recover from that, and it's like as a global, like on a national level, the whole population, if you want, everyone felt down, and you could feel that everyone was really down and didn't want to do that or this because
Oh my
it's
God.
very,
I mean,
you know.
I'm so like sad to hear about that, because like the
Hmm.
extent of its damage is
Hmm.
is so much. Like, and this is probably the worst time for such a blast to hit
Yeah.
Lebanon, right? Because you already have COVID-19, economic downfall, and then the blast also, affects that like your economy. And basically, what I read in the news was that there was, a food storage unit
Hmm.
near where the blast happened. That was like the major storage unit in Lebanon for like grains and flour. So, in a
Yeah.
country where like the food security is already threatened because of the economic crisis, for such a huge amount of food to be destroyed is like very harmful for its people, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, the funny thing is that, so people heard about this food storage being destroyed and all the wheat being destroyed. So the same day or the day after, you would go to the bakery, and all the shelves with bread were empty, and everyone was just buying bread
Wow.
and bread and bread.
Oh
And
my
this was
God.
crazy because like you could see everyone panicking because it's like already the prices are very high, and now imagine people saying there will be no more bread and food. So this was kind of stressful for the people.
Yeah, and also like the blast, I think, happened on a pretty normal day. Like people
Yeah,
must
yeah,
be going around without, like,
yeah.
obviously nobody has a clue that something like this is going to happen. And then it happens, and everything comes down to
Mhm.
almost zero, I guess, because
Yeah.
the country is already in a pretty not great situation.
Lebanon right now is facing an economic crisis, and basically the government does not have enough money to maybe like provide relief to all its people. And
Yeah.
because of such mass destruction, the relief that's available for the people is already very low, right? So that's why,
Mhm.
like, what is the effect of the blast on the economy of the country?
So as you know, the government isn't helping anyone, but we got a lot of international donors who donated like over $250 million, so that was good. But
Mm-hmm.
economically, it was very, very bad because a lot of them lost their jobs, and the prices are very high, and now they don't have their homes. So they have little money to actually like repair their homes, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just like I don't know. It came at a very bad moment, this explosion. So yeah, I guess it affected everyone, and
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I had just wanted to address the economic crisis that's happening in Lebanon already. The economy of Lebanon is pretty much in a downfall, mostly since 2019. So, what are
Mhm.
some, like, what is maybe what has played the main role in this economic crisis, or like what has led to it? Is it like the government expenditure, or like a
Yeah.
sector of the economy?
So what happened is that, as you know, the government is very, very corrupt, okay? And the politicians, they steal a lot of money. So, and also the country is still in debt. So there would be these reserves of dollars in the central banks and in the private banks. And instead of like spending these dollars on the country or on these debts, what happened is that the um, government would steal the money, like the politicians would steal the money, and then what happened is that the bank and the central bank ran out of dollars. So right now we are out of dollars, and we cannot maintain the peg for the Lebanese pound. So the exchange rate right now, the official one, is almost still the same as before, but on the black market, it's 8,000 Lebanese pound equals $1. And before it used to be 1,500 Lebanese pound, which used to equal $1.
Like the politicians have a lot of power to still like bring a country to something stable,
Yeah.
but they're still not doing it. And like they're so corrupt that they, at this point, I don't think that they care so much about what's
No.
going on, like how people are coping up and how
Mm.
the country as a whole is just seeing the downfall in front of them.
Honestly, they could help so much. Like if everyone just returns the money they stole, the whole country could get back to not really normal, but at least get back on its feet, you know?
Yeah.
But even after the blast, like the same day or the day after, the president didn't even care to come up and talk to its people and just, comfort them. He was sleeping during the blast, so it's like they don't care at all, you know?
Yeah, and I wanted to like ask one thing about the blast. So there were
Mhm.
like all these conspiracies and stuff going around in the
Yeah.
news. So has like there like did they find out one reason why it happened, or it happened as an accident?
So the thing is that they said they were gonna investigate, the government said it was gonna investigate, but if so there were some conspiracies that said that it was Israel that caused it, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
if it were to be Israel, there is a probability that the state wouldn't have even said it. Because if they say it's Israel, and if it were, then Hezbollah would feel kind of obliged to hit back, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to hit back and to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we're attacking you. And this would cause a war between the two countries. And
Mm-hmm.
we're not ready for that. We cannot afford a war because we don't have money for
Yeah.
weapons or people or all of that. So there's a
So
probability that the state didn't even say the truth, even though they knew.
yeah, like the public has no clue about like
Yeah,
why it happened, like how it happened.
yeah. But there are some people, like some Lebanese people, who said that like a couple of minutes before the blast, or even a couple of seconds, they could hear the planes passing by.
So the
Yeah.
ammonium
Yeah.
nitrate that was there in that place, did the government know about it from before?
Yeah. Actually, the president and prime minister knew about the ammonium nitrate like 2 weeks before the blast, and they didn't do anything. And there were some ex-prime ministers and some ex-politicians that knew about it when it arrived in 2013. So almost everyone in the government knew about it, but they didn't do anything because they don't care.
But that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so this is also what is the main reason behind the excessive and reckless spending by the government that, I mean, indirectly or even directly now, that the citizens of the country have to pay for and is leading to like massive poverty, right? Because the banking sector is not allowing the the actual citizens to like withdraw their money, but at
Yep.
the same time the government is able to like spend so much money and like even borrow so much money. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
the the massive amounts of debt were originally because of the civil war. Like Lebanon borrowed money so that they could
Yep.
rebuild their country after the civil war, right? But because of like reckless paid back, and then now you're taking money from the citizens and not like
Yeah.
giving them money, so it's like um It's literally like no one's winning in this situation.
No, 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 no. And like the government is spending money on some very dumb things in a way. Because like we don't have trains in Lebanon since, so we had trains when the French were ruling over Lebanon in the 40s, and then they left. And after the Civil War, during the Civil War, the trains and all of the railing system stopped. But the government is still paying the ex-employees and for the whole kind of maintenance, if you want, and they're spending a lot of money each year.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to say that because you're not getting anything out of it. Your
Yeah.
country is literally in an.
So does the sectarian form of government actually help in the way that all religions are represented? Like, does it unite the people, or does it work in like dividing them further and like actually even dividing the voters into these three groups?
I would say that it's actually dividing people because what happens is that each religion that's like, for example, the party, the Sunnite party in the government, will want to have more power, and this goes also for the other religions in the government. So I feel like at some point they want to overpower each other, and it also like leads to some decision not being taken because of people saying, oh no, this is gonna affect this certain group of religion, or you're gonna offend someone. So I feel that it's kind of like it's not letting the country evolve in a certain way.
Oh, so like each leader only cares about their group, so they're like, well, my group doesn't want this, so let's not
Yeah,
pass this law.
yeah, exactly.
So about that, like, how does that affect your like culture?
Is the media free, and do you have like free journalism?
Some people on social media were actually expressing their ideas or their opinions about a certain party or about the president and stuff like that, and they were saying that yeah, what they're doing isn't good, and it led to them being arrested. So I would say that in a way, no, we don't have full freedom of speech.
So wait, not like there isn't unity between the government and the people because protests in Lebanon are quite frequent, right?
Yeah.
So can you like explain why the protests happen?
So these protests happened, they started in October 2019. And during like the past years, people could see the problems, but they were still living quite decently. So they would just say, okay, it's okay, we're still living and all of that. But in October, the government started, like they wanted to put taxes on very like simple things like what's up, or I don't know, or just like hiring the prices. So everyone started really being angry, and like we cannot continue living like that because everything is getting so expensive. So this mainly led to protests, and during October it was really like the month of protests. And these protests were on like they were going on and off the whole year. And at first they were like peaceful protests, but the tension was rising between like the army and the people, so they started being a bit violent.
Yeah, I read somewhere that when they said that they put tax on WhatsApp calls, then I think did that lead to the resignation of the previous government, or like there were also like a lot of other things, or that was the main reason?
No, it was definitely not the WhatsApp taxes that was the cause of the revolution, you know, but it was all of these taxes and restrictions and all of that they were putting on us that led this revolution. So if you want, like it was kind of the tipping point, these taxes, and
Yeah.
the government resigned a couple of weeks or months after these protests because they were saying, okay, fine, we're gonna hear you out and we're gonna resign and we're gonna elect other other people to rule the country.
This is actually quite surprising to me because, I mean, even if we're not happy with our government's decisions in India, we could never see a scenario where we make the government resign. Like the government and the ruling party just has too much power for that to happen. So it's quite surprising to me that the government in Lebanon actually resigned.
Yeah, that's like something to think upon. But I don't think we cannot like comment on why they decided to resign, even if they had the power, because probably they didn't want some accountability or something like that. It could be anything. It's the government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also what's happening is that like they resigned, but their parties are still in power, you know? So all the corruption didn't went away when they resigned.
Okay, so that's like they're still in power basically. They just
Yes, yes,
resigned for the name of it.
exactly.
Yeah, and I wanted to like ask one thing about the culture part that does it like does the secularism part restrict what is shown in your entertainment industry or something? Or is there a lot of controversy or like talk about it? Because as in like India once there was this movie which Padmavat, which like a religious sector really had some strong sentiments about it, and they rioted and like stoned school buses, something like that. So does those things take place in Lebanon because of like not sectarian government or not? Or is just like normal? People take the entertainment industry as normal as it is.
I would say that they do take it as it is, but for example, the news channels, they are owned by some certain parties, so it's not very objective. But overall, like the entertainment and like when you go to the cinemas or want to listen to a certain type of music, uh, it is mostly available, you know? It's not very controlled by the state. So we do have this
Okay.
freedom.
That
Okay.
is
And
quite pleasant to hear.
Yeah.
yeah, and like is culture entertainment industry like there are things which are like not that great about it, or it's just amazing?
I wouldn't say that the entertainment, like the music or movies, these aren't like the nicest ones that you could find. But we do have some iconic oh my God, singers like Fairuz and Sabah. These were like very iconic, and some good movies like Farnaoun. But like the typical Lebanese ones that are very Lebanese, they are sexist. For example, the Lebanese female singers, they wear very kind of revealing clothes, but just to fit the women's image that is
Okay, like yeah, like we are supposed to dress in this way and that
exactly.
way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
also,
mean,
pretty.
yeah,
Yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
continue, Raphael,
um,
you were saying.
yeah, so the female and the women in movies and or TV shows are mostly shown as these fragile creatures, if you want, and they like it's very sexist in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, would you? The question like leads up to like, would you want to see women as that?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
think
it's
so.
they're basically making what sells in Lebanon, right? And I think I can
Yeah,
definitely draw parallels in almost
Yeah,
every country in the world. You know, they make what they can
I mean,
sell, and
yeah,
then what
we are
sells is what they show.
consumers. Yeah, and we are consumers of Bollywood, so we can't.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
universal. Sexism is
very much
universal.
so. Yes. And do we love it? Is it something so
No.
lovable? Yes, I think that's about it for today, right?
Yes, that's it's
cool.
been an amazing conversation. Thank you
Yes.
for being on this podcast.
And
Thank
thank you so much for your patience on our internet issues that we went through.
no,
Yeah,
it was very nice. Thanks a lot, and I enjoyed it a lot.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming over. Thank you. We are through with our first episode, and I don't know when it's gonna go up, but
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
don't count us
Yeah.
out.